in my hands.
Alright guys, back, more, Witness.
Are incredibly high.
Could be last
The only
episode,
person I
could
can
not
trust
be,
to get the
who
job
fucking
done
knows.
is myself.
So we're gonna continue
In
on with the
Survivor,
mountain
you
here.
always have to assume that people are trying to screw you over. I am extremely athletic and work out twice a day. However, I am not a jock or golden boy like Joey Amazing, Malcolm, or Ozzy, who will always be targets because of their stamina. I can also be extremely eloquent and persuasive. My final tribal council will rival the likes of Todd Herzog's.
Wow. Okay. So he's not just going to get to the final tribal council, he's going to give an all-time final tribal council.
That's the declaration. Look, this guy's going to call his shot, which I really, really appreciate. And I mean, when he was asked which past Survivor player, do you most associate with, he gave an entire grocery list. Shout out to Jeannie Chen, right? He talks about Russell, he says Todd, he says Natalie, he says Kelly, he says Aaron Wentworth, he says Sari. Like, he has an entire list of people that he feels like he could play most like, but I think he ends up reflecting most on Todd. I mentioned this in the kickoff. Really Todd heavy cast this season. Maybe they showed them China and Sequester or something, but a lot of people talking about Todd.
Todd would be another person to add to that list of super nice, everybody's face, very cutting in the professional.
And that's also, I think, part of his career as well. Like, we'll get to this with another flight attendant later on in this series, but like that customer service stuff, I think, is more applicable, right? This idea of like, I can be nice to your face and then like really vent behind the scenes. I don't think that applies in medicine, really, but what do I know?
All right, Mike, who is next?
Let's head up to the north, to Ontario, Rob, and let's talk about Erica, a 32-year-old communications manager.
Tell me about Erica.
So
Fuck
Erica loves traveling, boxing and fitness, and following
Fuck
pop culture.
off. Oh my god,
Particularly, I
he
love
fucking
that
him.
last one. Her pet
Right at this
peeves
point, I just want to be
include
done with
ignorance
this.
and men in ill-fitting jeans.
What does that mean? Tight?
I don't know, tight, loose. I don't know how she would. Maybe I have Pearl Islands on the brain. I don't know how she would have thought about Rupert going into the game with jeans.
Yes, he refers to them as his, fancy denim.
Yeah, exactly. It was skin rubbing against denim.
Okay, yeah, that's a pet peeve, certainly.
And big stakes for Erica here. According to her bio, she left her job before coming to Fiji.
Okay. What was her job?
Communications manager. So I guess it's one of these things, even with a reduced game of 26 days, you still got to get time off to go out on Survivor.
Okay. All right. So, anything else about Erica you want to set up before we listen to her?
I mean, she's another Todd person, a Toddite, because she felt that, Todd is a shorter guy who no one believed could win, and she feels like she's in a very similar mold. We'll hear a lot from her. She feels very underestimated, given the way she's perceived, and she hopes that's her secret weapon here.
Okay. Let's go out to Mike's conversation with Erica.
Why are you here on Survivor?
I've always wanted to be on Survivor. It's been a dream since I was a kid, and to be honest, as a Canadian, it was a dream that I never thought I had the chance to make come true, just because I was never eligible to play for the longest time. So a few years ago, when I found out Canadians were eligible, I knew that there was no question that I had to throw my hat in there, and I'm so excited to be able to live my dream and to prove to myself and to anybody that, anyone can do it.
Threw her toque into the ring.
Yeah, her America's hat into the ring. So it's something that she also elaborates with in my interview with her. So when she started watching Survivor, it actually plays a pretty big role in her life, because around the time the first season premiered, her grandfather had passed away. And that was really one of the first deaths she had experienced in her family. And so obviously it's a very hard thing to
so we
process,
continue.
especially
That's
as
some
a kid.
bullshit.
And
I
she
didn't even
says,
think about that.
watching
Okay, that's
Survivor,
interesting.
I was so inspired by seeing the strength of these people and what they were able to accomplish. In many
I was
ways,
actually playing the
helped me
game, I
get
should
through a
say.
rough time.
I was just looking at a guide at this point,
When she's in a
but
tough situation, she'll be like, well,
that's an interesting
when I get on
twist here.
Survivor, it's going to be a lot harder. So another commonality I think we'll see throughout this cast is how important the show is to a lot of people, which I think is really cool. I mean, that shows how much of an institution Survivor has been in its third decade, that it's been an important part of so many people's lives, in this case as sort of like an emotional crutch during a very difficult time in their lives.
Okay, back to Erica.
My issue is the solution, though, is the same thing for all of them.
And lockdowns, how has the past year changed the way you view this experience?
So I was supposed to come out last year in 2020, and, I had everything ready. I was all set to go, and then a few days before I was going to leave, I got the news that it was delayed, and then it kept getting delayed. And
relatable content.
A year later, I'm so grateful to be here. But I think that when I was going to play last year, I thought I had everything on lock. I thought that, I knew everything. I thought that I knew exactly how I was going to play everyone. And then after a year of the pandemic, I realized, I don't know anything, but I really only know myself. I feel like I've learned so much about what's important to me. I've learned so much about what's important to people, and I've learned so much about how different people are able to deal with crisis and conflict. So even though I feel this year I'm more humble, I feel like I know myself a lot better.
Be humble.
And I think last year I would have put a lot of pressure on myself to, deliver big moves or to, try to be someone who's remembered. But I think when you put that type of pressure on yourself, you kind of set yourself up to fail, or you kind of start focusing on the wrong things. The only promise I'm making to myself is that the only person in the game that I'm not going to betray is myself. I'm not going to allow myself to feel like I'm pressured to do something I don't want to do. I'm really just going to make sure that I'm never going to ignore my gut. Because after this last year, I realized I already have everything I need.
That's an interesting perspective. We've had some people come out and be like, I went through this experience and it's taught me to take everything, at face value. Here, Erica's like, I've already got, my cup is full, to invoke that metaphor that you used before. Maybe I won't be as cutthroat as I want to be in terms of having big move-itis.
She'll go with her gut.
Yeah, and Kellen followed her to the final 7. It's an interesting idea. It's almost like alleviating yourself of some pressure, which I think definitely helps. I can imagine that certain people are coming in wanting to satisfy some piece of criteria, whether personally or from a demo perspective, might really push some really big boundaries on them from a mental health perspective. It seems like Erica is more footloose and fancy-free than she was if she happened to come in during 2020.
Well, I do think that is something that changed because of the pandemic. I think that people had a lot more time to do more self-examination and sort of what do I want to be doing? What am I about? I think that with that downtime, I think that she's somebody who seems like that she might be a little bit more sure of
I couldn't imagine doing this without a guide. I would lose my fucking mind at this point.
To go, I'm a communications manager, and this is what I am, and this is how I'm going to play the game, and maybe she feels differently about herself a year later.
Now, that being said, she did say, I went out saying the only person that I'm going to not betray is myself. So it's not to say that she's going to be, this isn't going to be, Jeff Probst's best friend's race, but I do think if there is sort of a hunger there that was before, she can certainly be like, all right, I'm good. I'm feeling okay about this. Maybe not feeling as pressured to do well as she may have been prior.
Okay, let's go back to Erica.
I think people will perceive you as.
Oh my gosh, so I stand at 5 foot on a good day. I look quite young. There are times where I'm at the airport by myself, and I travel all the time, and I get asked if I'm an unaccompanied minor. And I have purple hair. I spent some free time yesterday doing my nails. I think that people around here think that I am a non-issue and that I'm not a threat at all. But I'm hoping that when I come in and
there's a lot going back and forth and rearranging things. This is really annoying.
Ally, and that's exactly where I want to be. I want to be seen as an ally, someone that people can work with, but not someone that they see as a threat. Because I think that that's my best bet of being able to navigate kind of undercover.
Roar. This is going to be weird to say, Rob. I think Erica has Purple Kelly upside.
Purple Kelly upside that she can hide?
I mean, she can hide, but also, looking at, going back to the oft-mentioned Survivor Nicaragua, I mean, Purple Kelly was sort of on the outs, but she was part of that majority alliance for some time, until everything ended up flipping on Brenda. I think there's this idea of she's young, she's gullible, she's someone that I can bring in, very impressionable, and I feel like the way that she is perceived, if she's coming across as very kid-like, especially concerning the parental figures that exist in the game, I could very easily see people want to work with her.
Yeah, want to mentor her.
Yeah, there's David, there you go, there's your mentee.
Okay, let's go back to Erica.
what's something that other players might dislike about you?
I think that people might initially see that, they might initially think that I'm high maintenance, and they probably don't know how helpful I'll be around at camp. And to be honest, like, while I was here doing the safety training with production, I let them know that my only wilderness skill is a positive attitude. But I'm hoping that once I'm able to talk and people are able to get to know me, they'll see that I'm someone who, even though I do not know how to catch a fish, I'm down to give it a whirl.
Right.
So I hope that my engagement and my excitement to be here will outweigh the fact that I do not know how to kill a chicken. But I think what makes me a bit nervous about people and how they're going to perceive me is, when you initially meet me, you see that I'm full of energy, you see that I'm open and that I want to have fun, but also I'm not afraid to kind of, make a bold move, and I'm not afraid to do something that there's probably no reason why there's ever been like a precedent to do it. We'll see. I don't know. That's like,
okay.
I'm making it sound like a big thing. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to pull something off. And I think that contradiction between how small and how innocent I look against like how fearless I am makes people uncomfortable and can be intimidating to people. So I think that later in the stretch of the game, when people start to realize like how smart I am and how ready I am to play, I'm going to run into a bit of trouble, but I'm confident that I'm going to be able to figure out how to keep going.
How will you leave? So, she admittedly is not the most outdoorsy person. As she said, the best thing she's bringing in her wilderness experience is a positive attitude. You talked about this with the season. Do you think that's not going to fly on this type of season of Survivor?
Look, I think a positive attitude can overcome a lot of things. I know that there have certainly been times in my life where I have hoped to make up for a lack of experience with exuberance. Doesn't always work out, Mike.
Yeah, they fake it till you make it, is I believe what they say. And I'm not sure if that applies in Survivor.
But I think that, look, better have somebody there who has the positive attitude of like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but show me what to do. Like we can overcome, as opposed to the person who's just like can't get out of the shelter and then wants to go home.
Yeah, I could imagine a situation for Erica, because I really see her going like one of two ways. It really is polarizing in that regard. Like, I could see her doing really well, gets brought into the wing of a strong alliance, and then is able to like make the moves that she wants to. Or she winds up like Simone from Triple H, where she is just like sort of out of her element, too much of an outcast in the beginning, especially amongst those small tribes, where if they lose early and they want to get rid of somebody, she might be easy lamb to the slaughter.
Okay, all right. Back to Erica for the final minute of her interview.
Leave your mark on the game.
Honestly, I just want to be myself. Last year when I was supposed to come, I think I had so much pressure on myself saying, like, it's been so many seasons since a woman has won. I want to be the one to break that pattern, and I want to be the one to represent like Canadians and women of color and all of that. And I think that, I don't know, having all of that invisible added pressure on myself was just too much, and I think it would have blown up my game had I played last year. Like, honestly, this year,
so
all
I guess
I want
now
to do
these are random.
Just be myself. You be that kind person.
Oh shit, these are
also a silent
also?
killer, and I'm hoping that just being able to play authentically, like, that's enough to leave a mark. And if not, then hey, at least I did it my way. So.
Yes.
Wow, killers and monsters. This really is the most dangerous season of Survivor ever.
Very dangerous, very dangerous. Maybe the biggest monster of all is the smallest one.
Wait, how would I even do
the
4
most
here?
Lethal. So,
What?
yeah, I already spoke my thoughts about Erica. I think coming in with that lesser pressure on herself, I think is good. I really do think she has the capacity to either do really well or not do well, just depending on the group she ends up with, and I think some of the more outdoorsy circumstances that fall in her lap.
Yeah, I don't think that Erica is going to be my winner pick, but she seems like a fun personality to have on the show.
I mean, we talked about this during the kickoff. She has that absolutely killer.
How am I supposed to do this so quickly?
Bio, right, about how Brenda was not afraid to show her teeth.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe Brenda upside for Erica. I mean, that she's on the smaller side into boxing and fitness. Seems fearless. Reminds me a little of podcasting.
How the fuck am I supposed to do
so
this?
That's definitely, if you need a substitute
This is
5
ridiculous.
host, I'm sure Erica can fill in that regard.
First Lady Podcasting, not always with the positive attitude.
So, that being said, I do wonder also if Erica could be like a surprise endurance beast as well, because I do feel like fitness
That would always be a surprise.
There we go.
Despite her small frame, considering how much they adjust those challenges for height, I think that she could be someone that actually, if they continue with the individual challenges of like stand in one place and do something for a long amount of time, I think she could really do well in those.
Okay. All right. Mike, anything else on Erica?
I don't think there's anyone doing this.
Erica is, I'm excited to see what Erica brings. She has a certain lineage to follow in with the purple hairstyle, and we'll see if the hairstyle can make the edit or vice versa.
Okay, who's next, Mike?
Well, let's continue on the short people here. Let's go from Erica to Evie.
Evie!
Yes, and let me say off the top here, Evie's pronouns are she, they, so just for everyone out there, you can refer to, and I conferred this with Evie themselves via DM, you can refer to Evie as either pronoun if you like, really just absolutely fine either way, but those are the pronouns for Evie.
Okay. Mike, what are some interesting facts you can tell us about Evie?
So Evie would describe themselves as extroverted, enthusiastic, and smart. They are a PhD student studying, I believe, human evolutionary biology at, I'm trying to remember the college, at Harvard, I believe. And Evie is a bit of a latecomer to Survivor, but very passionate. Their partner,
I hate these so much.
Them into the show, and it got to the point where before leaving, they basically held like big Survivor watch parties where even during COVID, they would do it over Zoom or drag their TV out into the backyard, where they essentially built an entire group of friends around watching Survivor. All these people from different walks of life came together to watch the greatest game on Earth, almost like a precursor to what Survivor is in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. When there were any big vote outs, did somebody point at the TV and laugh?
Oh, I can only imagine so. There's always a Mike Bloom in a group, is it not?
Okay. What else should we set up for Evie?
Evie is someone who's got the quirky look as well.
Yeah, how are you supposed to do there's so many fucking gaps in there, too? What the fuck is that?
Will be a very unique. We always talked about how, everyone from
I thought I saw a necktie in the cast photo.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the piece of neckwear is going to be, but either way, when you wear the tie out there, yeah, I feel like that's always a big statement to me.
How am I even supposed to get that one?
Okay.
I can't even reach it.
Should we listen in to your conversation with Evie? Okay.
Let's hear from Evie.
All right, here's Evie.
Really, that's
Why are
bullshit.
you here on Survivor?
This is such bullshit.
As I said, I'm doing a PhD, and I've been doing it for 6 years. I've been in school my entire life, and I'm almost at the end of it, and about to embark on this huge adventure that is entering, the quote-unquote real world. And what a better way to push myself out of the nest than doing the
I'm so
craziest,
confused. This is such bullshit.
Adventure of all time and play the greatest game that's ever been invented. I'm just a huge fan of Survivor, and this is completely a dream come true.
What's your favorite moment in Survivor history?
Wow, if I had to pick one moment, that's my favorite moment in the history of Survivor.
There we go. That one was at least easy.
I forget if it's the last episode or second last
Oh, we're at the
episode,
end. I do remember this in the guide.
When Parvati and Sandra are laying in the shelter, and Russell storms over and says, "Are you with me or are you against me?" And Sandra says, "I'm against you, Russell." That is such gold. I love powerful women, and watching Sandra and Parvati laugh their butts off at dumb Russell gets me every time. Love it.
Roar. So we know two things about this cast so far. They love Tom Herzog and they love Sandra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, I'd also mention Evie, when asked, favorite or winner and non-winner, another Todd Herzog reference. Now, to be fair, this is another, Todd was also another short person who was able to blend in and feel underestimated. So I can understand why Evie picks Todd here. But yet another Todd mention and only 5 people into this podcast.
Is Todd Herzog having a moment?
Apparently so, Todd. You better work overtime on
tough.
making the Funko Pops for this cast, because like you've got some real fans out there, buddy.
Okay, back to Evie.
One life experience you feel has prepared you most for the game?
I think a life experience that prepared me for the game was actually coming out. I really wasn't able to admit to myself that I was queer until after college, and it was something that I was kind of keeping below the surface for a long time.
Fuck off, Gabe. Oh my fucking god. I got it though, but still, it's like, fuck that.
Like, I spent my whole life thinking, will it be okay if I was gay? Would it be okay? Would my life be okay? And then it turns out that from coming out that my life is so much better than okay. It's like 1,000 million trillion times better than it was before. And that really opened my eyes to, when you actually let yourself be yourself and go for it and do things that are scary, it can have the most amazing transformative effect. And I try to, take that lesson forward into every aspect of my life. And coming to the game of Survivor, it's all about taking huge risks and things that seem like they're going to be scary, and hopefully they have a really amazing outcome.
Rar.
Starts again.
I mean, what an awesome story. Yeah. That's a really beautiful story.
Yeah.
I mean,
when she says that, you see why they say, okay, you're picked.
Yeah.
You're on the show.
They talk about it more in the bio as well, basically saying, I give off the vibe of someone super confident in my queerness, which I am now, but it wasn't always this way. I like to be loud and proud about that so people know that it's okay to take longer to know yourself. And that's a really cool message, I think, to impart of like, yes, it might take a while, but life is a timeline here. You can't always know things on day 1 that you might on day 24 or 25, and I think that's very applicable to the game of Survivor as well.
Yeah, especially think what would know by day 26.
Yeah, hopefully by day 26 you know that you're $1 million richer.
Yeah. All right, back to Evie.
What do you think people will perceive you as?
I think initially people, I do have glasses and I'm going to be, rocking a bow tie. So I think they might be a little wondering, is this person like a super nerd or like what's going on? Which, obviously I am. But I think, I have an ability that the more you get to know me, I'm really playful and goofy and silly. And I hope that people kind of let the intellectual part of me fade away. That's going to be my goal. And have them really just see me as fun, goofy Evie, because that really is the part of me that comes out the most when I'm hanging out with people. And I hope that people see me, as a friend, as someone they can talk to. I'm also a very emotional person, and have no shame in crying when I feel like I have to cry, and we'll have no problem comforting people and being there for people. And I really hope that I can be someone that is that kind of shoulder to lean on, and a person that's going to make you smile when you're feeling sad, and hopefully use that, to build relationships throughout the game.
Rar. Yeah, so this is really interesting. I think
I don't get. Wait. I'm so confused with this picture I'm seeing.
Right? This idea of, I'm a PhD student, but like I'm a big old goofball. You can have fun with me. It's very Elaine-like in that perspective. But I think it's a little countered by her pet peeve, and which I mentioned in the kickoff special, but, I think we should read it again. Evie's pet peeve, they write, men. Not all men, but I cannot stand machismo and mansplainers. Anything like that drives me insane. In grad school, I deal with a lot of know-it-all male energy. Watch out, Rob. Yeah. It's a lot. Back when I dated men, I once broke up with a guy because we were on a trip to Budapest, and he kept pronouncing it Budapest to prove how smart and worldly he was, and it was the biggest turnoff. I broke up with him literally 30 minutes after we got back from the trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, look, fun and goofy is a great energy to bring with you to Survivor. I feel like if Evie can keep some of the complaints about maybe her male tribe members to the confessionals, I mean, people will eat it up. I mean, she will be a big favorite on the show. But in the same way that we said for David, if these turn into actual disagreements of opinion, those are the things that sort of foster ill will and could lead to potentially being on the wrong side of a vote.
Right, I could very much see a scenario where Evie's like, okay, we have to get rid of, David because I don't like the energy that he's bringing. They're like, Well, David honestly brings more in challenges than Evie does. Should we get rid of Evie instead? I could very easily see that happen. Hopefully the Survivor gods put enough divine providence to put David and Evie specifically on the same tribe, because I think, like, as she invoked before, we could see another, like, Sandra Russell situation.
This one, look, I'm not even bothering with the guy anymore because this guy's too confusing to me.
That Evie could bond with other tribe mates over, that there's no better way to bond on Survivor than complaining about a specific person with somebody else. So, I mean, it could work in Evie's favor. But, ideally, you don't want to have... it works for Sandra. But it's probably a short history of people in the game who are able to, parlay like a number of confrontations with the other players into long-term success in the game.
Right, to preview a bit as to my thoughts on Survivor Pearl Islands, Sandra is more of a unicorn player than we may think. And I think as much as people want to take that as long as it's not me's strategy and implement it, Sandra is really one of the only people that has used it to great effect. That being said, going back to Evie's perception thing, I think being that shoulder to cry on especially is going to be great. Not only being that shoulder to cry on, but I guess it's along the lines of what David was talking about, right? Like, not only being that shoulder to cry on, but being that person to cry alongside you. I do think that fosters a bonding moment between people that might be more emotionally helpful in the game. And the whole Budapest story outside of Black Widow feels very Seinfeld to me, right? Like, I feel like Jerry would break up with someone for saying something.
I think Elaine, I could see it more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is it Budapest? You don't say, like, oh, there's a pest in my house, let me get some raid.
But just to tie this back to Todd once again, in Survivor China, Todd does not care for Jean Robert. He hears Jean Robert saying things that about Courtney that are terrible things, and he's like, "All right, time to take out the stinky trash." But Todd's gonna wait for the right spot for his game strategically to make that move, and also does not let Jean Robert know yet that he is going to be marked for eviction.
Right. And let's talk about for a second, when asked which past Survivor will you play the game most like, Evie says, I think the strategy that would work well for me would be staying close to the center of power, but never directly perceived as the one making the calls. And to that point, they bring up Todd, putting Aaron as the leader of Fei Long. They talk about Natalie and Samuel Del Sur being Jeremy's number 2, and then John Mish's number 2.
I disagree with that assessment, but...
I want to seem agreeable and like I wasn't playing with intense strategy, but be right next to the front man so that I could grab the reins at the right moment. This plan could blow up if you're too in love with the front man, a la Steven with JT, or any non-Kim players in One World. You have to know when to betray them. So that's Evie's strategy in a nutshell, is like cozy up to the person in power and then eventually usurp them.
Okay. All right, back to Evie.
What's something that other players might dislike about you?
Well, I am not going to tell anybody that I go to Harvard, because you really can't ever say that without having some sort of effect on people. So I will avoid that completely. I'm going to say that I am a research assistant at a lab, at a different lab, just to kind of not have that label on me, because I really there's a lot of stereotypes about, when you hear Harvard, you think pretentious and, elite and all that stuff. And that's really, really, really not me. And I really don't want to have that label associated with me. Although, of course, I'm grateful for it in life. But, don't want that to be my role on Survivor. So hopefully I'll be able to keep that under wraps.
Between the pandemic and lockdowns.
Okay, I'm so confused by this picture. I'm thinking for this.
The way you view this experience.
Yeah, I mean, as a huge extrovert that's been incredibly repressed for the last, year plus, this is the most absolutely incredible opportunity for all of us that we got to, escape the pandemic briefly to play this amazing, fantastic game. And I'm so excited to actually get to talk to people and hug them and share food with them. That's absolutely incredible. On the flip side, it was certainly it was always going to be hard to leave the people I love, especially my partner who I live with. But, leaving her at a time when we're already so isolated in this whole year. It's just been the two of us in our apartment, against the big scary world. That wasn't an easy thing to do. But she's incredibly supportive of me being here, and I am here to win it for us. And just lastly, I think as a fan, I was devastated when there was no Survivor last year, and I know because of COVID, and I know that all the fans out there are desperate for a new Survivor season, and I really hope that we can give them an amazing season that makes it worth the wait.
Go off, Evie.
Yes, Evie. Tell it.
Should I go
Yeah,
do this one?
You really hear the passion come through. I like it.
And that's the thing.
I can't do
this
that
is
one.
coming from someone who only got into Survivor like 2 years ago. It just shows how much this show has made a grip onto people, that they are hungry to play in this moment. But what I really like about Evie is, like, while that hunger's there, it's not necessarily a hungry attitude behind it. I don't know, the energy I get from Evie, I'm not any sort of like aura reader, but I get a very like calm, chill energy from Evie. And I think if they continue to possess that attitude at camp, like if they're a cool hang, I think that's going to do really well for them.
Yeah. I mean, I really like what I'm hearing from Evie in this interview.
Yeah, and there's more to come.
Okay, all right. Let's go back to Evie.
What's the best advice you received before coming out to play?
The best advice I received before coming out to play is just to have fun.
I don't get how this is mapping out to what.
The players, that really
Is this the
resonate
right
with me.
one?
It's always the people that are actually enjoying themselves and see it, as this amazing, fun, wild experience. And I know for me, if I get to, I am my most self when I'm having fun and smiling and able to enjoy it. And no matter what happens in this game, this is the most incredible once in a lifetime opportunity. And especially during COVID, we are the 18 luckiest people on earth right now. And I really want to be able to find the joy in, in every aspect of that, no matter how miserable the actual situation is. We are freaking on Survivor,
Fuck that.
And I want to be able to hold that joy with me.
Roar. I find that very refreshing to hear. I feel like that, over the course, and look, we've all done a lot of reflection on Survivor, and I feel like that, Dalton Ross did all of the quarantine questionnaires, and I feel like that I'd say 80% of them, at least, people talked about how Survivor, here's a way that Survivor impacted me negatively. I feel like it's been a minute since I hear people excited about the idea of Survivor and going out and being on this show.
Right, I think it depends on the cast. I know the David versus Goliath cast all had a really good time. I even the losers, and I think it really depends on the vibes in which the season has, and it seems like Evie is trying to bring the good vibes from that perspective, right? Of no matter what happens, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I'm going to treat it as such. So, I'll make moves depending on that, but I'll just enjoy the little things. I think that is sort of the prevailing attitude that the pandemic has brought into Survivor for a lot of people. We're going to talk about it actually coming up next with Jeannie as well. This idea of, just make the most of it. When are you ever going to be in the middle of the Fijian jungle, pooping in a bush, waiting to devour a handful of hermit crabs for dinner before you go stand and hold a ball on a podium for as long as possible? Take advantage.
That's Tuesday for me, Mike.
Well, we can only be so lucky, and so you gotta sort of take advantage of the opportunity. That yes, sometimes it will suck.
Again, I have no clue what we're playing next.
Pull up from any sort of
probably will be Titanfall 2. We'll try it out. Not 100% though.
I do not think they will get along, and basically say I have to enjoy this because I know as soon as I leave, I'm gonna miss every minute of it.
Okay, all right, back to Evie.
What will be the biggest component of your game? Strategy or social?
In terms of what is most important to the game, strategy or social, I want to take a hedging thing that is all about social strategy, but I do think the social for me is the most important. The strategy, as there's been hours and hours of podcasts and hundreds of hours of audiobooks about the evolution of Survivor strategy, most of which I listen to. And as much as complex it is, it's also not that complex. Really, what it comes down to is having people want to work with you, want to keep you in the game, and keep more of those people around than there are people trying to get you out. So I think really for me, my whole strategy will rely on that social piece. And I think being able to build real, genuine relationships with people is something that I excel in, and I think that will be the most crucial part of my game.
How will you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be intrigued to see what her viewing history is for TEOS, what she skipped and what she didn't.
Yeah. Boy, nothing like hearing your life's work can be summed up in like 15 seconds. It's not
I mean, listen,
it's not that complicated.
It isn't though.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I've always viewed Survivor as a game with limited strategies with unlimited personalities, and that's why I've always loved the more human component of the game. Is because if you approach someone with the exact same strategy, depending on their personality, their background, their relationship with you, they're going to have two completely different reactions to it. I think Evie is completely right here. That strategy. There's only really a handful of things you can do unless they throw a bunch of advantages in. What matters are the people that you're interacting with and working around the human element.
Yeah, and so I really think that Evie seems like they have a good understanding of what the exercise is out here on Survivor.
The question is, how applicable is that going to be? And I would love it. Again, Evie seems like a good view, a good head on their shoulders about the game. But as I mentioned before, I just have like a hunch that they might get caught, saying the wrong thing about the wrong person, turn the tribe against them early on and be like, I don't think we need Evie around, which would suck because I think Evie's going to be a good character in their own right.
Okay, let's just hear the last question for Evie.
How will you leave your mark on the game?
Well, there's never, in terms of how I would leave my mark on the game, there has never been an openly queer woman who won Survivor, and I am telling you now, in season 41, that is going to change.
A flickering lamp. A flickering lamp.
Called their shot right there, yeah.
All right. But that was very fun.
Yeah, I think Evie is, makes sense for a PhD student to, write a dissertation, essentially, on Survivor. And I will admit, I think you get a different sense, honestly, from her bio than you do her interview. I think her bio is a little, for lack of a better term, clinical. I think, the way it reads can be a little intense. But I think hearing Evie speak, I think I get a completely different impression about her, and it's a good impression.
I agree completely. When the fun, goofy side of Evie, did not come across in her written bio.
Yeah, so that makes me hopeful because, again, this is not a writing competition. You've never seen a pen on Survivor to crow Boston Rob and that one time. So I'm excited. Like I said, there are a couple of pitfalls for Evie, but I do think if Evie's able to, get a little bit of a head start on that runway, I think they could really take off, particularly in the second part of the game. As long as we don't have another Elaine-type situation, right, where it's just like you are way too likable to make it to the end, I could see that possibility, but for a good majority of the game, I think Evie's in a good position.
The only thing I'm really worried about with Evie is just if this game is the most physical game of Survivor that we've ever seen, I'm worried about the people that are not just the big, strong competitors being able to make it through.
Yeah, Evie said in my interview, what will people underestimate in you most about Survivor? Evie said, probably my physical ability. I'm 5'2". Full disclosure, I've never lifted a weight a day in my life before I found out I was going to be on Survivor. And look, that can work for certain people, but in very specific situations, we can't all be Suri. So it's that horseshoe thing, right? Either Evie is immediately booted out for being you stick out like a sore thumb and
so does the game just restart?
Quite literally in this game. Or they survive the first couple of votes and then make it far because then at that point they're not only not
this is not making my top games.
But really gets along with everybody and is able to remain in an ironclad.
I enjoyed it for what it was,
people are saying we can't get rid of Evie. We love Evie.
All right, Mike. Anything else about Evie?
No, let's move on here to aisle 6
play Timefall 2.
In Survivor 41. Jeannie Chin, clean up.
Yes. Okay. Jeannie, doing a great job working in the supermarket during COVID.
Exactly. I dream of Jeannie and many other employees at supermarkets who have been dealing with probably some very nasty situations.
So I think we'll do Titanfall 2.
She's in
at least try it out.
Los Angeles. Angeles, or she's from Los Angeles, but she's up in Portland.
And
yep, and she is 46 years old. I think, understandably, given her profession, her pet peeve is people who wear masks incorrectly by not covering
Microsoft
their
5's the big one
wear
left.
them at all.
Yeah, when's here? Next episode? Or next time? Continue a new game? Whatever. But I'm tired. Whatever. Titanfall 2, probably. For now, thanks for watching.